The Wii U version of Rainbow Road faces an unnecessary level of slander, and if no one else is going to stick up for it, then I'm going to, because this course is absolutely phenomenal. It's potentially the best Rainbow Road in this series, if you remove your nostalgia goggles. As I literally just hinted at, this video does not take nostalgia into account, as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was my first entry into the series. I don't really have any nostalgia for previous entries, which does make this video a little more objective, but if you disagree, I do understand, as I have nostalgia for Minecraft, having played it since 2013, and as my 10-year anniversary coming up, I get nostalgia, I do. This video is going to break down every section of the track, which is made by me, but all the sections kind of make sense, and what makes them all great, and together they make what I think is the best Rainbow Road and the best track in the whole of Mario Kart, which is, I know, a highly controversial opinion. So the first 4 turns on this track are the only obviously difficult turns. The Rainbow Road doesn't really live up in terms of obvious difficulty, but neither did Mario Kart 7's, and a lot of people point to that as their favourite, so that's pretty much a moot point. And also this track has a lot of hidden difficulty to it anyway, which will be discovered later in this video. Getting a mini turbo around the first turn, and then getting a good line around the next turn, is very, very difficult, so much so that I don't even do it in my background footage, although I do it in my current personal best. The second turn is also hard to get a mini turbo on, add that cheeky little line in there. The third turn is by far the easiest one, but if you want to get a good line, or all 3 coins in lap 1, you'll definitely need to brake drift, but not so much that you grind to a complete halt, which makes it satisfying to do, unlike in 200cc, which is just a mess of a game mode. I don't like 200cc. The fourth turn on its own is pretty easy, but you need to release your Ultra Mini Turbo from the second turn and begin the drift around the third one a lot earlier than you would expect, which throws a lot of new players off, literally. You could then release a mini turbo off the glider, which requires an amazing handle on soft drifting, so I don't do it very often, especially with my build that has lower mini turbo than the meta build. The space station area of this Rainbow Road lasts no more than like 10 or 15 seconds, but there's still a lot of things you can leverage to gain a lead in this section. First of all, the mushroom shortcut saves about half a second on its own, which is amazing for time trials once you discover it, because you can immediately shave off 1.5 seconds from your old PB, but it's relatively useless in a real race, but this is made up later. The conveyor belts are a little bit of a red herring, because there's this tiny strip of white and grey land between the off-road and conveyor that takes a lot of skill to ride on, but a way tighter line than going around wide to go on the green conveyor belt, which a novice player might do. If the green path is the inner one, however, it's still faster to take it, which means your strategy changes depending on, the cycles. The last bit of this section is also very well designed. The boost pads into the cannon glider. The boost panels switch in such a way that you can get them both on a specific pace, but other than that, your strategy actually changes depending on which boost panel is on. If it's the close one, you can charge a mini turbo and just chain it into the boost panel. If it's the far one, you might want to try and charge a super mini turbo so you're always in a boost, rather than you have that little bit when you're not in a boost if you don't charge the super mini turbo. I personally love strats that change with the track in its cycles, and this space station section has 2 of those. The cannon glider is the only one. Oh my goodness. The cannon glider is one of only 2 in this game that has items right before it, meaning you can get insane items in relatively high positions, making catch up a lot easier. This is a first for Rainbow Road, as all of them are long stretches of road with absolutely zero catch up potential, and this game's is the first one with a way to catch up if you fall behind. This Rainbow Road has one of the only Mario Kart Wii-esque shortcuts in this game, which is a path switch. The first shortcut saves about 0.5 seconds, as mentioned earlier. The path switch shortcut, however, saves over a second, and is definitely not free. If you jump off at the wrong spot, you're either gonna fall off completely, or be shoved into off-road, which both lose a decent amount of time, which is quite similar to the Mushroom George gap jump, if you fail that people rave about liking so much for that very reason. This path switch also has a good use of relatively unknown tech, which allows you to hold drifts in the air. Doing this right allows you to charge a super mini turbo because you can turn tight in the air without actually turning tight. So if you don't do that, you'll either charge a mini turbo or just not get one at all, which further increases the amount of skill needed to run this track that doesn't meet the eye at first. And the point is made even more prominent when people bash the Rainbow Road for its lack of difficulty, which, as has been proven, is really not the case, because there's an advanced strategy you can do for basically every section so far that requires a decent amount of practice, and a lot of them are unintuitive as well. Another thing to note is that you can do the non-mini turbo method of this path switch when shocked or if you've just been hit by an item, which is obviously slower than the mini turbo method but still a decent amount faster than just going around, so you can leverage that on opponents as well. I do have to concede this point slightly, as the following two turns are literally just turns, but this portion is way shorter than some other Rainbow Roads, and by some other Rainbow Roads, I mean all other Rainbow Roads. Every Rainbow Road has some turns that are literally just turns, so yeah. I'm not going to call them out, as most people have nostalgia towards the Rainbow Roads in the games that they grew up with, and I'm not trying to bash other Rainbow Roads, just trying to praise this one, so irrelevant, but if you want me to, then I guess I can. The final hairpin turn mimics the difficulty of the fourth turn on this map, but the punishment is a wide line, rather than just falling off. One thing I do like is the inclusion of the red herring boost ramps here, which are actually a lot slower than going around, hence I call them red herring boost ramps. Perfect way to fool beginners and add to the hidden difficulty of this course. The turn demands that you brake drift in order to take a good line, and when trying to take a good line, it can be quite easy to fall off turning too tight, which is good, because you can't just learn an angle and just take it brainlessly every time. You'll sometimes need to adjust it on the fly. Emphasis on sometimes you will nail the angle, but it's very specific, so sometimes you need to adjust it, and by sometimes I mean most of the time. You can build up a final mini turbo right before the finish line. The world record does this. I'm not sure if it's faster on a non-baby build, but I do it anyway. Every Rainbow Road in this game, except for Super Mario Kart, Super Circuit and Wii, have the kind of nostalgia section where it gets all quiet and dreamlike, and people listening to it go, yes, oh, I remember playing this as a child, this bit is the bit where I go back and I go, oh yay and happy and oh my goodness. Wii U Rainbow Road is no exception, although it doesn't include an N64 motif, but in my eyes that only makes it more unique.